Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Postgame Huddle. I am Mark Givler. Ohio State 24, Washington 6. The Buckeyes passed their first road test of the season and moved to 4-0 now. So a nice road win for Ohio State. A lot to get into. We are live in Seattle as well, so we'll have the postgame coverage there as always. I'll be bringing in Kevin Noon here in a minute, but I'm going to go solo here for the first few minutes. I'll jump right into the first thing I want to talk about, which is the game ball. I always give out my game ball, and today it's going to be Caden Curry, Ohio State defensive lineman. Curry was all over the field today. A couple of sacks, chasing down bubble screens, getting pressures, making plays in the run game. I think that was a major breakout performance by Caden Curry. But just largely what I want to really get into is the performance of the defense today. That was a suffocating defensive effort, holding Washington to under 250 yards of offense. This is a Washington offense that I think at the end of the season, we are going to look back on and say that was probably the best offense they played in the regular season. So I think this is a really, really good indicator of how good this defense is. After we've seen what they did to Texas at the beginning of the season, now we've seen them completely suffocate a very high-powered Washington offense on the road in a hostile environment. It is fair to say that this defense is 1,000% for real, and it's going to be very interesting to see what this looks like at the end of the year, because you can keep building on this. They keep adding things, whether it's new looks defensively, just guys playing different roles. They just keep adding things up. And it's amounting to just an absolute dominant defense, which, they've had some good ones over the years recently. I think this is the best defense they've had in the last 3 years. We won't go nuts here. We won't go too far back, but they had a top two scoring defense the previous 2 years. And then of course, so far this year, I think this is the best of the three defenses they've had. Go ahead and yell at me about that in the comments if you want, but I see so many difference makers on all three levels of this defense. And today they were all firing. You got a great game out of Davis Igbinosun. You got a great game out of Caleb Downs, as always. You got great games out of the linebackers. Arvell Reese was very noticeable. And I really thought that front came alive today. It's been a weird kind of start for the defensive line. There's been games where one guy or the other has maybe had a breakout game, but I felt like the defensive line kind of put it all together today, Kevin. Cade McDonald, Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, just all over the field today. 3 sacks from Curry, 2 from McDonald. They get a sack from Kenyatta Jackson as well. So just a very noticeable, dominant performance by that front four.
I didn't have 6 sacks on my bingo card. I thought that there were maybe some opportunities there when it comes to Ohio State's ability to, maybe exploit an offensive line that wasn't up to par with the rest of the offense. But, with that being said, I think that if you would have sat there and told me Caden McDonald would have 7 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and he wouldn't even have the most, production points on defense, I would have been like, well, I'll still take it. But, 11 tackles, 9 solo, 3 sacks, 5 TFLs for Caden Curry. I mean, just really impressive. I mean, Jim knows who, and we'll see what we're saying here in a couple of hours after Penn State and Oregon play each other and what that game looks like. But let me bring us back on camera. But for now, Matt Patricia has passed all of his tests. Ohio State, I think, was allowing 5.5, 5.3 points per game, allowed 6 in this one. I mean, what's not to like? I mean, I'm sure people freaked out when Jonah Coleman had a 34-yard rush out there, but I think that Tom, Tony, myself, anybody that you listen to said he's going to do some things that's going to make you a little upset, and he did. But Ohio State was able to keep him largely in check, and keep the Huskies largely in check, who were probably the more flustered team when it comes to penalties, especially in the first half. Now, Phillip Daniels probably going to have a lot to think about with a couple of bad penalties in this game, but
and Edric
and Edric,
they can go together. They can both the offense make them do Oklahoma drills against each other all week or something. I don't know.
They're going to be running. They'll not home from Seattle, but you can better run them a little bit, because that's kind of what you can do.
Yeah, just a very special performance by the defensive line. I think it was impressive how they did it. Yes, there were, among those 6 sacks, there were some like clean wins. I think Kenyatta's was an example of that, where it was kind of a clean win against the offensive tackle. He was able to get in the backfield and get the sack. But they had at least 3 or 4 of those sacks were simply just maintaining your lane discipline. And they weren't even really trying to sack Williams in a lot of those scenarios. They were just trying to keep him contained within the pocket. And they were able to do it so well, and they got such good coverage behind them that they were able to ultimately get the sack. And so there were some coverage sacks in there, but they did an amazing job of keeping Damon Williams in the pocket. They did just an unbelievable job of limiting explosive plays. The fact that these guys had, I think, maybe just one explosive play. I don't think they had maybe a second one, depending on, I guess, what your definition of an explosive is. But like, this was a unit that put up points in bunches, and they could hit you for 50, 60 yards with several different players. And it just never got to that point today. They never let Damon Williams get comfortable. To Damon Williams' credit, he was efficient. He took what they were giving him, and his completion percentage was really good. He didn't turn the ball over, but he just never had anything. They just never had anything going. It was very, very, very suffocating. I keep saying that word. It was a suffocating effort by the defense.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it was, because you sit there and you're like, well, Washington's going to get it put together now. Jed Fish didn't do himself any favors in this game. The special teams play, Little Giants, where not all the Giants were paying attention. That'll be a what if. I'm sure in his post-game press conference he'll be asked about that. His unsportsmanlike call that backed them up. I mean, I'm not a ref apologist. I'm not whatever the opposite of a ref unapologist or anything like that. Washington probably ran into more calls that didn't necessarily go its way than Ohio State, but that's not Ohio State's fault. Ohio State, suffocating is the right term. I'm going through my notes. It was weird not being at the game this week and actually having a chance to take notes and things like that. Washington was one of the number one team in the nation in third down conversions. And in the first half, it went 0 of 6. And I don't have it in a graphic here. Let me pull it up here. They ended up going on third down 1 of 11. So they were 1 of 5 in the second half. So if you would have told me that Washington was going to go 1 of 11 on third down, again, I probably would have been skeptical.
Yeah. That was I thought Washington would get. I picked 31-20 Ohio State. I thought Washington would certainly get into the teens in this game, and it didn't happen. And the fake field goal that went awry. The last questions about that, but I would offer a scenario where Ohio State played that very well. I mean, even if their tight end there had turned around and known what was going on, he was covered. Ohio State was ready for that. That was covered very well. And so I think you do have to tip your hat a little bit to Ohio State on that. Obviously, we can talk about the start of the game. Too conservative maybe on the play calling in the first half. Certainly, that was a game that could have been 10-14-0 Ohio State early, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit. So a lot to kind of unpack there maybe with the offense. But again, it's one of those things where you pass a test, you pass it well, and you still have a few things you can go and yell at people about this week. And so I think these are all healthy things when you win and you're still not quite perfect, but you win comfortably.
Well, you don't want to be playing your best football in September. We always joke about the September Heisman, things of that nature. If this is as good as it gets we're keeping an eye for when the Ohio State post-game press conference starts. We will dump out and get to that as soon as that happens. I'm not used to being the one punching the buttons here, so you're just gonna have to bear with me if it's a little clunky. But yeah, I mean, Ohio State goes into halftime up, 7-3, and it's like Ohio State was fortunate to be going up 7-3, but Washington was fortunate not to be going in down 21-0. The fourth and one bugaboo arises once again. The Brandon Ennis, highly returnable punt that he puts on the ground, kind of fighting for a little bit more yardage, but it was just a misplay. I mean, it wasn't like somebody made a great play on it. He was just too much effort on that one. I mean, Ohio State honestly could have done more, but then to use the term suffocating once again, Ohio State's offense was suffocating in the third quarter, had 2 drives in there, really kept the ball away from Washington. Let me pull up the numbers here. In the first half, Ohio State had 10 passes and 15 runs. In the third quarter, Ohio State ran 21 plays, 14 passes, and 7 runs. And here we go.
And here we go with the postgame.
Yeah, that was the mindset going into it. Coach Day has been preaching that to us all week. He's having poise in the noise out there, and I think we did a good job of just having poise in the loud environment. And our mindset was just keep swinging. Things aren't going to go our way the whole time. There's going to be momentum shifts, so we just got to keep swinging.
Joey Kaufman.
Yeah, we kind of knew what look we were going to get there, and they ended up bringing it. So we had to I had to drift and kind of get out of there. And Jeremiah did a nice job of finding the window, and the receivers made some great blocks, and O-line did a great job up front as well.
Deep, Dan Holt, 11 Warriors.
I think it was just what kind of the game called for a couple of times. They were either dropping out 8 guys and there were only 3 guys rushing, or they were playing man coverage and nobody had the quarterback. So I think it was just a couple of times where it was kind of what the game called for, and had to go make a play with my legs.
To the right, Cameron Teague Robinson.
Yeah, I think it builds a lot of confidence, just, having consistency like that, and then having the receivers catching and running and making guys miss. I think it just builds consistency for the offense and then builds a lot of confidence for the offense.
Over to the right, Dylan Davis. Ryan talked about 8 minutes. There's really no full time. You guys pulled up for halftime. You come out and score again. Like, what was the message in the locker room at halftime? And just coming out and doing that. How good that feel is confirmation of what that means to you.
Yeah, we were excited to score right at the end of the half, and then we knew we would get the ball coming out, and I think we had a 15-play drive to go down there and punch it in. So, offensive line did a great job. It's a long drive for them. So I think they did a great job on that drive.
Stefan Kreisnik over to the right.
After that Texas game, Coach Day talked about, feeling like they could have put more on your plate, trusted you with more. I guess how excited were you about the opportunity to, face a Big Ten team, get some more on your plate and improve what you can do?
Yeah, I think the atmosphere was awesome and the environment was awesome, and we were playing a great team. So it was just it was all around excitement, going out here, the West Coast, go to Seattle, and go play a great team like that.
Spencer Holbrook.
It's awesome to watch, and they're so good in practice that it shows up on Saturdays. So it's awesome to see Caleb, Sonny, all those guys making plays, and it gives us a lot of confidence as an offense that they're going to go and get stops for us.
Right next door, Austin Ward.
You referenced the environment and the and all that. What was the biggest challenge about feeling?
Yeah, I think, when you're not on your cadence and you have to go on the silent count, it's definitely tough. And then, just them making it tough with our communication. But we practiced it all week, and I think we did a good job of it.
Deep, the gentleman that I don't know whose name is, but he's raising his hand.
Yeah, I think sometimes in the TV timeouts you can kind of feel the energy in the stadium, and it was definitely an awesome atmosphere, very cool.
Right next door, Deep, Joe Nugent.
Yeah, they're definitely a really good opponent, and we were excited about the challenge of playing them. And I think our guys, kind of like I said before, we were just going to keep swinging and go off the no momentum and kind of just keep playing.
Pat Murphy.
Yeah, I think they all do a great job. And it's nice when you have three guys like that who can rotate because you have fresh legs in there, and the defense gets tired, and those guys are fresh and they're able to run through contact.
Jeff Gilbert, it was more of a methodical day for the offense, not big things over the top. How comfortable is that for you to just play that way, keep it just with that?
Yeah, we had to take what they were what they were giving us, and there wasn't many opportunities for big shots, and we just had to keep playing, and it was going to be longer drives, and I think we did a good job of executing.
And the last question, Tim May.
Yeah, Jerry, number 4, Jeremiah Smith. It's like a freight train coming across the middle of that drag route and stuff. Did you sense that too? Did you sense some momentum turn in this game with that play? You stood there in the blitz and hit him on that. But what's it like having a guy like that on your team?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Down 3-0, that was a huge play for the offense, and I think it was third and 12 maybe. So we really needed that, and I think the whole offense executed that very well. We hadn't practiced it too much. We only got it a couple times, and I think we executed it at a high level on that one.
Was it frustrating? It looked like they were just bound and determined. Y'all were going to have to go the hard way today. Did it feel like that at quarterback, meaning they weren't giving you the stuff over the top, so to speak? Yeah,
we knew it was going to be a gritty game. It wasn't going to be perfect, and I think kind of like I said before, Coach Day and our whole offense's message was just keep swinging. Things aren't going to go our way, and we just got to keep playing.
Julian, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be back in with Coach shortly.
Let me unmute our mics. We'll wait for Coach Day to come in there, and we'll jump right back him. Thoughts on what Julian had to say there? I mean, I felt it was as measured of a game plan of a post-game press conference as the game was.
Yeah, I mean, he's just very calm, and you don't see him rattled on the field. You never see him rattled in press conferences. He's just like the prototypical, cool, calm, collected quarterback in that sense. And I think I think regardless of some things everyone wants to maybe pick at, I think if you're an Ohio State player, if you're in that locker room, you're feeling really good coming out of this game, winning this game by 18 points on the road and holding them to 6 points and really showing a lot of balance offensively there, especially in the second half, getting the offense rolling. I mean, you have to love how they finished that game. So I'm sure they're incredibly excited about how they finished that game in the second half.
I mean, let's not forget Washington had a 22-game home winning streak. Doesn't have it anymore. And I think we're going to get the reports back from the good number of Ohio State fans who went to this game, how loud it was and everything else. And Ohio State had to get out there and earn everything that it did. So, I mean, I think that, this is one of those wins that will go a long way in December, January, what have you. So, you just kind of have to roll with it. But I mean, I think it was, one of those things that you need to have a couple of these games. And if you're, oh my goodness, we're so tight game ends up being an 18-point win, maybe you're pretty good.
Yeah, I picked them to win by 11, so they won this game by a touchdown more than I thought they'd win it by. So I can't really sit here and pick apart too much. I thought this would be a really close game. I thought they would have to pull away in the second half, and they did. I can't say it played out exactly how I thought it would play out, but the end result was similar. But yeah, it was just it was a really good test for this team. So now we've kind of seen them in, the Texas game is kind of one kind of game, one kind of environment. This is a different kind of test, so that they're passing some very important tests early in the season that should help them continue to build off of these experiences. And Julian Sain keeps looking more and more comfortable back there. He just was so efficient today. He's so good when he can just let it rip. And here's Ryan Day.
Ryan, who's your favorite kid?
Yeah, they both played well. I thought, the plan going in was that, Larry Johnson talked about, 4 guys playing as one when you're going against a quarterback like this. It's easy to find yourself, going off on your own and trying to make plays, and then it's easy for there to be layers that get, disoriented, and before you know it, he can split out. And so or scored out. So, all those guys working together worked because if you understand that the coverage and the rush are working together, now they're starting to see how this works. The second part of it, they're able to stick with it, cage it in there, and then get the sack. So did a great job stopping the run, had a good plan, but it was about the execution of it. So both those guys played great. Just growing. We got to grow. I think it's great. It's a great reference point to come into a stadium like this. It's a great environment. I thought that the fans on their end were loud and showed up in a big way. It was great for our guys to see some red here. I think anytime you take a young team on the road, it's great to have familiar faces in the crowd, and they had a presence, and that was great. But I think the guys believe in the system. I think you have some guys in there like Sonny and Caleb and now Caden, IGB, that have played a lot of football, and they're kind of the guys that are leading the way. And then quickly these guys are following because they believe in them, because they've seen it. And then I think you mix that in with the chemistry of the defensive staff and the game planning and the execution of it all. I think you're seeing that. Now, we're not where we need to be in terms of, down the road. I think we still got a lot of work to do in all areas. So we have to continue to work to get better. But you're seeing, obviously, the potential of where we are. But each week we're going to have to continue to get better because, in this conference, that's our first conference win. Got a lot of work to do. But it does give us something to refer back to of, you just went into an environment where they've won 22 straight games and this team won. And, if we can do some things a little bit better, we're going to come out of this film session thinking that, we could have even played a little better in certain areas. But that's it. This time of year, you got to continue to figure out what the issues are and continue to get better. But I think the confidence is there, and it should be.
Joey and Bravo, specifically with this defense, the way on third down is really strong. When I Washington is country leading the nation in third down conversions, what are you typically doing in those spots? Kind of get the stop on third down, move to a good one.
Yeah, well, it starts with first and second down, trying to get them in the third and long. But it's playing situational football. And the way that we're playing now, and most teams are playing, they huddle, we huddle, you're not going to get as many plays. You're talking about 53 and 62. So it's not a lot of football. So that means the percentage of plays is going to be a lot situational. And so we've got to be great in the situations. And it's something we worked hard in the preseason. Certainly Matt and the defensive staff understand that part of it and work hard at it. We do as a team. But that really what it comes down to in understanding, your opponent. Now, it's always about us, but you got to understand how they're trying to attack us. And a big part of it was stopping the run on first and second down and forcing them into third and, either third medium, third long situations. Well, I think it's important that we continue to grow on offense and figure out where the identity of this team is and where it's going. I think it's something that we'll work on week to week. But when you have a defense that is playing the way it is right now, you can play with confidence, knowing that you don't have to score every single possession. You can control the clock and play it. I wouldn't say more conservative, but you understand time, score, and situation. Quite honestly, in that last drive or second to last drive, when we took the penalty, which we can't be doing this, we can't be having these self-inflicted wounds. It's going to cost us a game. So, and that happened too many times in this game. So, we had 5 penalties, and so we can't do that. But when we found ourselves in that situation, it was, you want to push the ball down the field and possibly create a turnover or, run it twice and kick the field goal and make it, 14-point game. We ran it there and on 3rd and 17 and got 16 yards on it. And then once it was 4th and 1, we decided to go for it. So it allows you to sort of play the game knowing that you have a good defense and you don't have to score every time. Now, the goal is to score every time, and we got to continue to figure out ways to be more explosive. And we will. We will. That's something that we're going to work hard on this week. Well, we're only 4 games in, so we got a lot of work to do here. Hey, well, I'd rather it this way than any other way, right? So, listen, it doesn't surprise me with the coaches that we have. It doesn't surprise me with the players that we have. But that being said, like we got a long season ahead of us, and I think there's confidence right now, and that's the most important thing I think for young players. And now, I think we can start to say they're not inexperienced anymore. Maybe they don't have as many games as some of the guys who were here last year, but now you're starting to see them do that. And you take some of these guys who started for the first time on defense. People talk about Julian, but the first a start for a lot of these guys was Texas at home, and now a first road game was against a team that won 22 straight at home. So these are all things that I think are building up our confidence, which is critical. So to say I'm surprised, no, I'm not surprised, but it's exciting. It's exciting to see the capability and the potential. And I think if we can all stick together as a team, we'll have the chance here. But long way to go, a lot of work to do.
Two more camera team, and then Joe Mitchell over that camera.
And the middle 8, that's it. So many games are won and lost in the middle 8. So for us to score there and then come back before you turn it, it's 14-7. And we're going to look back on this first quarter and just get sick because, but that's football too. And that's on the road. And I got to tell you, when you wake up in the morning and you go, okay, here we go. Who knows what's going to happen in this type of a game? Now we got to get on the film. We got to learn from it. We got to get better at it because if we need to, or if we're going to go, we want to go in terms of this team. We got to be better in those areas. But it would have been very easy to get discouraged, and we didn't. Hung in there, kept swinging, kept battling, and so we showed resilience, and that's a positive.
All the way back, Joe.
I thought that was a big swing in the game for sure. Yep. They were being aggressive, but it was our guys were prepared for it, and that was a big stop. Because when you get down in the red zone, we got to force field goals. But then when you get a stop like that, when you get a stop, it's a 4-point play. When you get a stop that, now it's a 7-point swing. That's the way we look at it. So that was a big point in the game for sure.
Coach, thank you.
All right, guys, thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Taking care of you. My favorite, right in this character. Chicken fries.
Hey, Mike.
Okay, just go.
Thinking of the 6-7 tackles today, you seem like a man possessed at times. What's just going on out there with you guys on the defensive line, especially?
First and foremost, just seeing Ohio State fans out there. You saw Sea Red, and when it was supposed to be a crazy atmosphere, and just seeing all of them was a great atmosphere to see. And I feel like we just took accountability of our actions today, and we just make the plays when the numbers called. I honestly didn't know that, but honestly, it's truly a blessing, and I just got to thank the man upstairs for that. Yeah. Honestly, just the way we practiced all week. We knew we were playing a great athlete and a great playmaker, so we knew we had to contain the quarterback, and we knew we had to do our job. And honestly, plays just come off of that. When you cage the pocket that well, he's going to come to you eventually. Yeah, definitely. You love to see the pressure put on you as a defensive line. I feel like our defensive line this year is just a bunch of no names, and we just go out there and we just try to ball and we try to play as hard as we can.
What about the chemistry?
I mean, we've been here together for, 2 to 3 years now. I mean, we've definitely seen guys before us. We see the great defensive line last year, all of our guys in the NFL now. And we just learned every day off of them. And just being able to play with them and be able to learn and teach from them, and just definitely paid off.
What do you think you guys are doing on third down? You know, you make it down on your own, keeping your own territory. You feel like you're doing on those guys?
Just continuing to play. I mean, a lot of defenses can break down. You know, you can start to kind of give up a little bit, and then that kind of that voice in the back of your head saying, all right, they already got this drive, they're already done. I mean, we definitely just play up to the standard. We never give up.
Are you guys enjoying being essentially the unit that's winning Ohio State?
I mean, we love to do our job, and we love to do it at the high level, and we love to make plays when our numbers are called. And I mean, if it happens to be in the back of the goal line or in the middle of the field, or if the game's on the line, we love all the energy behind it.
You were last people's upset special today. Were y'all reminding each other of that? Did that motivate you?
I mean,
into this game?
our defensive line, we're always motivated. Our whole defense is motivated. I mean, we feel like we always have a chip on our shoulder, and we feel like we always, because, I mean, we lost so many players last year. We have so much to gain now, and we have so many players just have an edge, and we have so much such a good defense that just wants to play and just keep playing. I mean, I feel like we're always going to have that mindset, and we're never going to let it get to our head, and we're always going to play like we are those guys that just kind of play as one unit.
Last question right here. Then we're going to keep it going.
It's going to sound kind of weird. I wanted to ask you, like, your eye black coming off the field is all over your face. Do you do it that way, or is that just a natural result?
No, normally I have one cross on one side, and I do a ring on the other side, just a significant what I want to do at the end of the year.
I mean, like, look in the mirror after the game and, like, see, like, you kind of wore the effort you gave to.
I mean, that's the least of my worries, honestly. So, I mean, if it happens, it happens.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
And the other kid.
Hey, Mike, about 5, and I'll have someone else. Thanks again,
All right, 5 minutes with Kate McDonald. Fire away.
Well, I'll say, Coach Johnson, he this whole week he was preaching of rushing as one. You got Caden Curry, KJ, Edric, all those guys, man. We just played together, and Big Ten play. Quarterback's really good, but we all rushed together and we made a play. Caden Curry, man, he's a hard worker. It's just how you practice is how you play, and we work really hard. We always push each other to go as hard as we can, and you see shows.
Make that final play that matters right up the gut. Pull Demond Wade down. What's going through your mind there? You seem extremely happy.
Well, just it was 4th down. I was like, just bring out my best move. And I got past the center, and the rest was history.
Are those plays where you feel the way offense offseason? You talked about becoming slim back now. Are those plays where you feel that?
For sure. I feel like I can go longer and just really help my team win, because that's at the end of the day, we want just to win on the board.
When you guys first started the season, the stars of this defense unit, IGB, Sonny, Caleb, you guys had Cape Curry, you guys, the no names on the defensive line. To see what you guys are doing now, the impact that you're having through 4 games, what does that mean to you guys?
First and foremost, like, got to thank God, we're at Ohio State, number 1 team in the country, and just being ready for the moment, the opportunity to go make a play, and it shows.
You look so motivated. Is that just true for that?
For sure, motivated. Just really, I love football. I love doing this, and just happy we got the win.
All right, we'll bring in Kenyatta. Caden, thank you.
Thanks, Caden.
Appreciate it. Fire away.
Kenyatta, you've been here with Caden Curry for 3 years. To see him have the kind of game that he did today, how exciting is that for you?
I mean, it's very exciting. I've been seeing this since freshman year, so it's not surprising, but I'm very excited for him.
Did you make the play where you wrap up the line around the offensive line
Yeah.
the rest of the guys around.
Mhm.
This is kind of the one example of the way that you guys are working together right now. It seems like you guys are all really on the same page.
Yeah, that's what Coach Jay been preaching to us all year. Just play as one. Don't be selfish, and you've seen it today. So
And yeah. Everybody on here, defensive line had at least one play of significance.
Yeah.
Whenever you guys had several. What does it just say about this group y'all put together here now? I mean, basically replacing 4 starters from last year. A lot of people thought that was the question mark of this defense. How do you think you've answered that?
I mean, just keeping the standard, the Rushman standard. Like you said, we lost 4 good guys, but Caden Curry and I, and the older guys, we live up to that standard. The younger guys and the people, and the other players, they just follow after that standard. So. I mean, like I said, we're not playing selfish football. Like you said, we got to give up some plays. We got to, do things that we don't like sometimes. But hey, as long as the team wins, we're good.
Is it possible for a defensive line to get this up?
Pardon?
Is it possible for a defensive line to get this up?
Oh, of course. Yeah, it felt like that.
What's it like when that is happening?
Just havoc. Nobody can block us. Just go get a dude with the ball. Do your job. Go get a dude with the ball.
Last question.
Yeah, that was a pretty good team out there. Environment was, real good. It was real loud. But, we're the Ohio State Buckeyes at the end of the day. We play our football. It's all about us, and we don't really care about who our opponent is. It's just about us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And CJ. This will be our last player.
Get that 1 yard. Yeah, just catch the ball, knife, get vertical, and get that 1 yard for the team. To be honest, it was electrifying. Just having an opportunity, to seal the game. Us to sing the song. That was special.
Do you remember when you guys installed that play? Maybe what you thought about it?
We rep plays, all through camp and the spring, so we finally got the opportunity to run it. So I was definitely cheesing. I was like, man, hurry up, call the play. But I had the opportunity and I made the catch. It's special, man. You got speed, and you got the change of pace guy, and I'm the power guy. So it's like, when we all work together, we like dangerous. But when you try to separate us, it's very hard for us to play as one. That's something Coach Locke continually preaches. Like, if you play as one, trust me, the game will go the right way.
How frustrating was it the way the game started? Though y'all got right down there, but couldn't punch it in, and then of course it was the fumble on the kickoff return. Y'all didn't get the ball back. What did y'all get straight? You think in that second quarter, especially at the end of the second quarter drive?
Definitely on that 4th and 1. I got to do a better job getting my pass down. That's something I got to continually work on. But, Coach, they always tell us weather the storm. So I think that's something we did as a team. We weathered the storm very well, and we responded quickly.
What is it like to see? And then Jeremiah catches that drag route over the middle. And like I said, it looked like a freight train turning up the field. What does that just do for the whole team to have a player like that make a play?
Man, that alien give us some juice, man. That that got different. He worked hard every day. He pushed us, each and every day, to be our best. He just always bring that, that juke. He's a South Florida guy, so he's got that swagger to him.
CJ, having a quarterback like Julian, we talked all year about the voice he has, like for freshmen or for a first-time starter to come on the road like this. Like, how impressed were you with the way he handled the environment?
I wouldn't say I'm impressed. I see that guy every day in practice. He go against the best defense in America every day. So, with the things he do in practice, doesn't surprise me what he did today.
How much did that kind of voice, I guess, translate in the huddle? As you guys are trying to score late in the half or whatever it may be.
It translates a lot. He's just calm in there. He reminds us, stay calm and just to play. We go continually stack plays and punch it in.
Last question.
I always try my best, to be the power back and get the dirty yards. That's what Coach Locke like to say. So, me not, getting that 4th and 1 for the team was like very heartbreaking for me. But I had an opportunity later on in the game to fix that.
All right, CJ, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. All right, guys, thank you. See you back in Columbus.
And that is that from that shot. So here we go. First thing I noticed, CJ Donaldson calling Jeremiah Smith an alien. Where have I heard that before?
Yeah, well, I think just about everyone that's seen Jeremiah has called him that at this point. But yeah, it never gets old hearing people, be in awe of Jeremiah Smith. Just watching him over the last 5 years or so, I've been able to watch him. You don't see a lot of those types of players. That's for sure.
Right. So, we got a better smattering of players on the road than we normally get at home because they were rapid fire. I mean, nobody was up there more than 2 minutes, but we got a chance to, kind of hear from, certainly the defensive line. And I think that's, where the kudos and where the credit needs to be. We did get to hear from the Cadens. We did get to hear from Kenyatta as well. I did kind of go through and pull out some more stats. And let me bring this up for the game comparison. Holding Washington to 234 yards. I seem to remember Washington averaging more than 500 something there. So to hold them to 50% of their capacity or of their average while they're playing in their own building. We talked about 1 of 11 on 3rd down, 1 of 3 on 4th down. I would have never believed after the first quarter that Ohio State would have had more offensive plays. Ohio State +9 on offensive plays. Ohio State ended up 4 of 5 in the red zone. So anybody who was starting to write their red zone woes as like a standalone, this is where things stand piece, probably had to abandon that pretty quick as Ohio State was able to rectify that. Ohio State holding the ball almost 32 minutes. I've not seen the quarterly breakdown, but I really believe that there was a huge discrepancy in the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, they totally dominated this game in the second half. I mean, we can sit back and play the what-if game on a lot of things in the first half, but they completely controlled this game on both sides of the ball in the second half. They were good in short yardage. They were good in red zone. They were amazing defensively. It was just a very dominant half of football, and I think a lot of good experiences that can come out of that in terms of the defense, being put in a position where they need to kind of keep their foot down. And, there's been some games recently, of course, where they've been up so big where, the defense could have maybe taken a play or two off and no one would have noticed. But this was a game they needed the defense locked in. They got the full 60 out of the defense. Julian Sain continues to be incredibly efficient. I don't know. I mean, he might have missed, I think it was like one throw he missed today.
He threw one away.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think there was one throw he actually missed today. I'm saying like that it was a poor throw. I think the other throws were largely him just getting rid of having to throw the football away because there wasn't anything out there. He seems to have or is developing a very good knack for when to take off. He's not going to be confused, for Braxton Miller or anything like that. That's never going to happen. But he can still really hurt defenses by, when they go in their shells and they take 2 guys and they put them on Jeremiah Smith and they man up everywhere else and they give you those 8 to 10 yards. He's willing to take them, and he did that a few times today, which really helped the offense out. So there's other than maybe I think a little bit of conservative play calling there in the first half, there was very, very little to really go nuts about on this game. I thought they played a really good game for the most part.
Yeah, and I think that there are going to be a lot of people that are going to fixate on that first quarter, and that first quarter defines that, okay, all well and good, Ohio State wins the game based on the second half, but slow starts. And I talked to a lot of people, a lot of Ohio State fans leading up to the game. It's like, oh, I hope we don't start out slow. And I'm like, well, if they get down 10-0, that's not good, because I was living in a universe where I thought that Washington was going to put some points up on the board. I think I had 38-24 was my pick. So, I had them scoring 4 times. It wasn't 3 8s. I promise you that. So I had them scoring 4 times. So I thought that might be problematic. But again, Ohio State. If Ohio State converts on that 4th down, they're going to score a touchdown there. So then if the Brandon Ennis punt return happens, people are going to be disappointed. I read social and everybody going nuts about, well, he shouldn't be returning it. People want Jeremiah out there. I'm like, are you insane? Are you mad? I don't want to see Jeremiah or Caleb anywhere near any of that type of stuff. It's so low leverage. The risks far outweigh the gains by having, your two aliens out there taking extra hits. Returning punts is just insanity. I mean, there are a lot of things that I would do for money. Returning punts, I don't know if I would do that. I mean, first of all, I can't catch. Second of all, I can't run. Third of all, I can't really see. So I don't think anybody's asking me, but it seems like a hard way to make a living.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in the camp of no one that important to the team should be returning kicks unless there's a situation like you're in a playoff game, it's tied, or maybe you're down a score and you've got your opponent pinned deep in their own territory and you're going to get a return maybe around midfield. And then maybe you throw Caleb Downs out there for that one-off. But like as a rule, I just want guys back there who are going to catch the ball. And so whether that's Brandon Innes or whether that's someone else, someone mentioned Mylan Graham in the comments. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him back there, but just protect the football and don't put the team in a bad spot and don't risk an injury to someone like Jeremiah Smith, who just impacts the game so much, and Caleb Downs, who impacts the game so much. There's just there's very few guys on this team that are irreplaceable. But those are two of them.
Super chat from Harish. What is going on with Edric, man? Our team on the ground saw Edric after the game, and he had a bag of ice on his left ankle. We're not breaking any state secrets by saying what we see out there at that point. But, I mean, maybe he needed a bag of ice on his ears after he got chewed out for his punch. And that could have been really, really problematic. When you look at that in the grand scheme of things, but it doesn't end up costing them. Caden McDonald ends up having the big sack on fourth down. Everybody goes home with punch and pie and is happy about it. But I don't think we've seen the Edric that we've expected at this point.
No, I think that's definitely fair, and I think the question is why. And I think certainly a portion of this is I don't think he's 100%, but there's also a portion of this where whether it's he's pressing or whatever it is, he's made some mental errors as well, or some emotional errors, I guess you may call them. But yeah, I think that's going to be kind of a key for them moving forward is getting Edric Houston going. Does that mean maybe at some point when the schedule breaks a little bit like it could here in over the next few weeks before they get into it with Penn State, does that mean maybe resting him? And by rest, I mean almost finding a game or two just to not play him if he needs that to get healthy, or whatever it might be. But yeah, that would be they've got Caden Curry and they got the Cadens going. They got Kenyatta Jackson going now. Now they need Edric to get going as well. And I think very highly of him and expect we're going to see a tremendous player here down the road at some point. But I think those like knee sprains in training camp, they can really linger into the season. We saw that with Jonathan Cooper, where a high ankle sprain or a little knee thing, and we finally got to see Jonathan Cooper like kind of emerge late in that year when he had that great game against Clemson. But yeah, it's just one of those things where they got to get him right, both physically and mentally right now.
It's just me, Tim. If you're not an Ohio State fan, you're probably worried. Whereas if you are, you can be a bit frustrated but confident. So, I think based on my text messages, I knew a lot of Ohio State fans that were concerned, and I knew it leading up. And I mean, I bet even a couple of these friends are watching the show right now, who were like, I just don't have a good feeling about this. I said, yeah, but you probably don't have a good feeling about a Rutgers game either. So we got another super chat that we'll get to. I got a lot of comments queued up. Whether or not you get to Mark or myself or Tom and Tony, time will tell. But, your thoughts on that. I mean, frustration, I think, is fair. But, I don't think that it's fair to say that only non-fans were like worried. I think that there was a moment where fans were worried when Ohio State is sitting there looking at a golden sombrero after however much time to start the game.
Yeah, I mean, look, is it healthy to be watching Twitter during the game? Absolutely not. But I definitely saw, some stuff on Twitter. I'm like, oh boy, like get it together. Come on. It's going to be, it's going to be fine. Like, let's not go nuts and draw these sweeping conclusions about everything. But that's what you get on social media. So, it's interesting. I think what got people a little bit spooked before the game, and some people may not admit this, but I just think it's the truth, is that we basically saw the line drop an entire touchdown over the last week leading up to the game. Like, you could have got Ohio State, or you could have got Washington plus 15 and a half-ish, 16, if you had done that like a week and a half ago, and you just saw Vegas just drop the line. So you combine that with the slow start, or some of the miscues at the beginning of the game, and people are like, oh no, this is a Vegas special or something. But it just, they regrouped very nicely, and they, again, I thought they played a tremendous second half all around.
We'll get to Ryan's super chat here in a second. If you see me looking to the side, it's because that's where the TV is. Ole Miss is about to beat LSU. It's kneel down time, 24-19 Ole Miss. LSU ranked number 4. Somebody already chirped in saying that Kiffin will lobby to be number 1. And I said the September number 1 ranking is just vanity points. So, it's all well and good. I know a lot of Ohio State fans that would like to see the number 1 not next to the name, be 2 or 3. I'm like, you already got it at this point. You might as well hang on to it. I mean, I've never seen a team get dropped for winning as much as Ohio State has in the past. Ohio State will not drop because of this game, in my opinion. I mean, there will be a push for, maybe Ole Miss to move up. There'll probably be a push for the winner of Oregon, Penn State to move up. You have some things there. We got Georgia, Alabama. There's a lot of football on that I'm excited to watch tonight. Super chat, sat behind the OSU bench, zero panic, mild frustration, no arguing. They weathered a pretty loud crowd for their first road game fairly well. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. Yeah, I mean, we don't get a chance. I mean, they don't have a camera fixed on at least one that's hot, that we're seeing the Ohio State bench all the time, but you never saw a moment of where it was like you felt that they were stressing. I mean, I think we saw individual moments of where players were trying to get a little bit more out there. Again, the error of effort from Brandon Ennis on the punt return, but I think Ryan's point is pretty good.
Yeah, there's always going to be some emotions on the sideline. I mean, it's football, it's how this goes, and it's healthy. There's nothing wrong with guys getting frustrated on the sideline. But this is a team that I think is relatively, despite being inexperienced in some spots, is relatively a calm group. I don't think this is a team that lets a lot bother them. And so I think this is a team that is wired correctly in terms of fighting through some adversity.
Rob Schaller says, saying second half was a huge step by him. I don't disagree. I think that second half is going to be something. If Ohio State ends up having a special type of season, I think this is the game, that second half, we circle it and say, was that his moment? Let's not forget CJ Stroud played at home against Oregon, didn't particularly look all that great, missed the next week with an injury, and then came back the following week and started to look like the CJ Stroud that we all remember. Could this be the game that we look back at and say, again, I think it's going to be, part of it's going to be about what your perspective is. Was it that Sayin wasn't sharp, or was it just that the play calling was pretty crummy? I don't know. I don't know on that. I mean, I think that they did kind of get a little too cute. I think that, oh, you want Bo Jackson? We'll give you Bo Jackson. We'll give you Bo Jackson and then some. But to Rob's point, I think that this is a huge step forward.
Yeah, I think maybe almost worded a different way would be, I think this is maybe the half of football that tells Ryan Day, like, hey, it's fine. Let him go. Like, you don't need to protect him. You don't need to coddle him. He's capable. He's perfectly capable of all the things you need him to be capable of doing. So I'll be interested to see if they've had some training wheels on at times, I think, with him. be interesting to see just how much they just kind of let it rip. But yeah, he to me looks completely ready for whatever they need him to be ready for, just physically in terms of being able to make the throws, but also mentally and just his demeanor.
Right. So, that's a big one. Let me get back here to more comments. Again, I got a lot of comments from everybody. We'll try to get through as many as we can on this show. But we remember Tom and Tony will be joining us probably in the next 5 to 10 minutes, give or take. They're trying to get set up. I wasn't able to be there to location scout. Andy says that Juck sent him to the show. So thank you, Andy. Thank you, Juck. In case you have not had a chance to see any of Juck's material over here on the channel at Buckeye Huddle, youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Fantastic material from him. I know that he's sent a lot of people. So for those of you who may be new to the channel, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Don't cost nothing. And I got an even better idea. Why don't you check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com? That is the best way to support us. Tom, Tony, myself covering the team. Mark covering recruiting. We've got Juck obviously doing a lot of great content. Andrew Ellis kind of running the boards. All of that, for the price of a crummy delivery pizza, less than that, you can get a month at Buckeye Huddle. It's gonna be a fun ride, fellas. So you're gonna want to stick around and be part of all of that.
Looks like our guys are still getting set up there. They got a nice spot on the field.
Yeah, I know. Is giving up 21 points in 4 games good? Just asking. Mark.
Yes, and I'm not going to be one of those people who downplayed Washington's offense because they were playing some bad teams, nor am I going to be someone who downplays Ohio State's defense because it got a little bit of help from Grambling. This is a legitimate defense. As I said earlier, they've had a defense the last 3 seasons, if you include this one so far, where they've been the top 2 in scoring defense. I think this is the best of those 3 defenses. It'll certainly play itself out, whether I'm right or wrong about that. But this has the look to me of a defense that is going to just cause nightmares all season. It's going to be very, very hard to consistently move the football against this team. They're just so talented and smart at all 3 levels of this defense.
Lynn's Breezy, man, Day has got to let Julian Learn take the training wheels off. We'll never go all the way. Again, I think we kind of touched upon this just in the last minute or two. Maybe this is the game of where Ryan Day realizes, hey, I can trust this kid. We'll see. Ohio State comes back home, plays at Minnesota next week. That is the next one, and then they have a couple of road games with Illinois and Wisconsin still on the schedule there before we start getting into the back half of the season and start thinking about the Penn States and the team up north. But at some point, you're going to have to trust the kid. At some point, you're going to be like, he's driven the family truckster around the block more than a couple times. He's not put a scratch on it, not put a dent on it. Okay, maybe he did get left of center a couple of times, but no harm, no foul, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, they to me did start to ease off a little bit there in the second half and let him take a little bit more control of the offense, and he delivered. So I think, you just kind of keep building, giving him a little bit more each week.
I think our guys are ready, so we're gonna unmute them here. They have themselves muted. So guys, if you hear me, unmute yourselves. Let me.
All right, there you go.
There you go.
You got us.
I tried to unmute you, and it said.
As long as you can hear us,
yes.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Kevin, for handling the first half of the show. We will take care of the second half of the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom. Tom, how's it going?
That was a day of football and really a weekend of football that I thought lived up to exactly what I was sort of expecting, but really what I was hoping in terms of environment, stadium, game, all of it really was, sort of what you had in your head in terms of what this might look like and sort of the experience overall. I thought that was, I'm sure there were people late in the first half throwing remotes and that kind of stuff, but all week long we said, hey, this is probably going to be a close game at halftime. You're going to have to just relax and it's going to be okay because the talent's going to win out in the end. It was a close game at halftime, but then the talent won it out in the end.
Yeah, it was just like if Ohio State could get possessions, which they only had 3 in the first half,
which is crazy,
and they had 7 for the game.
Yeah,
that last possession where they ran out the clock was their 7th possession, so their 7th drive, which is that's something that you hope doesn't happen when you're playing Army or the 18 play drives. This was a bizarre, even for I would not have expected this kind of game to only have 3 possessions, even knowing, there's still a muff. That's like, but 3 drives, you're going to have more than that. But that is a first half drive chart right there that you're looking at, Tom.
Right. Yeah. It's first half drives for Ohio State, 437, 329, 331. That's it. They had the ball. That's 11 minutes and 37 seconds. So they had 3 drives. None of them were long drives. And that was, honestly, that was a relatively balanced first half. You had the one thing that really swung things in the first half was they had the long possession to start with and ended on downs inside the 5. And then they lost a possession with the Brandon and his fumble on the punt. That's where you really lost a possession. And that was what really kind of swung things. Ohio State's offense, they scored 24 points. They had one touchdown in the first half. They didn't score until a minute 8 in the first half. And still, you look at the drive chart, and it's like 9 plays, 45 yards. They had 6 plays, 15 yards, and a punt. 10 plays, 73 yards. 14 plays, 75 yards. 11 plays, 59 yards. 8 plays, 44 yards. They did not have a bad drive other than the second drive. They lost the one drive to the fumbled punt, and that was really it.
As frustrating at times to watch the offense, as conservative as it was, scoring 7 points in the first half, my thought was if you just throw the ball more, you'd have more points. Now, again, there's only 3 possessions, so you can only have so many points. But they just, Brian Hartline and Ryan Days felt like they were just intent on running the ball, slowing things down again, taking maybe that's lure the crowd to sleep. But they didn't because this place was loud all day. We can talk about that later on. But eventually they started letting Julian Sain throw the ball, 22 of 28 for 208 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, only had maybe a couple of moments where he should have thrown a pass or just got pressured. But he never looked rattled. Tom, what would be points on the bold prediction? Was this a 2-point bold prediction if you would have said Julian Sain will outrush DeMond Williams?
Yeah, boy, that would have been a pretty good one, and that's, I think, a testament to how good the Ohio State defensive line was in the game. They had a bunch of sacks, but he just never got loose. You could really tell what the game plan was. Don't let DeMond Williams beat you with his legs. Don't let Jonah Coleman beat you. Don't let Denzel Boston beat you. And Jed Fish was asked about don't let Denzel Boston beat you, and he said, "Look, we got other guys. We're comfortable with other guys." And we spent all week saying, these are the 3 guys to watch. Ohio State said, these are the 3 guys to watch. You're not going to beat us. Make someone else do it. And, I'm sure people are watching the game going, who the heck are all these guys catching passes? Tom and Tony didn't say, we didn't tell you about it. We didn't say Desmond Roebuck's name out loud once this week. And your Decker DeGraff, we did not say that name out loud once this week. But that's what happens when you take away the guys. This was a don't let Michael Jordan beat you kind of game. So, okay. B.J. Armstrong is going to score whatever B.J. Armstrong is going to do. But if you're going to, if it is all right, let's see if B.J. Armstrong can beat you, you're going to take your chances with that.
Yeah, and that's what happened. And Denzel Boston had a 17-yard catch in the first drive, and then didn't have anything until like the fourth quarter because they limited him.
Yeah, 3 catches, 26 yards, and a long of 17. So that's. You will take 8.7 yards per catch on from the big, and 8.7 yards per catch for Jonah Coleman as well. Those are 2 guys who, in the past game, you thought, oh boy, they could be difference makers, and they absolutely weren't.
And Jonah Coleman had some nice moments, but Washington only had 2 rushes of over 10 yards or more. DeMond Williams had 1. Jonah Coleman had the 34-yarder, which I know probably frustrated some folks, but he had a couple of he got loose, and it's like, oh, that was 8 yards. That's not a lot of yards to get loose. You're gonna give up some 8-yard rushes. The most dominating performance. You could be completely dominating in terms of a defensive performance, and you say their long run of the day was 9 yards, and
yeah, you're going to give up some 7 and 8 yarders. That's fine. You don't want to do that a lot, but if that's the big one, that's fine. Jonah Coleman had the 34-yarder. The other 12 carries in the game, he had 36 yards. So that's 3 yards a carry outside of the one long one. If you had told Matt Patricia that on Wednesday, Jonah Coleman's going to have a 34-yarder. He's not going to score. And then he's going to average 3 yards a carry for the rest of the day. And Denzel Boston's going to have 3 catches for 26 yards. I mean, I've never seen Matt Patricia do a cartwheel, but I bet you would have gotten Matt Patricia to do a cartwheel if you told that on Wednesday.
Jonah Coleman will have 70 yards. Everybody else will have -9. Yeah.
You're gonna take that for sure.
Ohio State's long rush of the day was 16, but they still rushed for 149 yards. That's consistency. That's when we talk about 4.5 yards per carry isn't great, but over the course of the game with no long runs, that's just ball control, and you're holding onto the ball as much as you have it. And they started putting together some long, time-consuming drives in the second half there.
We do need to get to the super chat from Mike Ferguson. He says, "Cue the tractor towing bench and the leaf blower."
Well, we got a cart.
Some kind of a vehicle with a flashing yellow light over there. I don't think it's towing anything, but
siren. As soon as you said it,
we are in the flight path up for SeaTac as well, so you may hear airplanes from time to time.
I hope we're okay where we are in terms of we're not going to get put on like a cart or something.
Yeah.
Are we told to move? We'll see. But yeah, this Ohio State defense. Well, I mean, let's talk about Caden Curry because this was a JT Tuimoloau against Penn State kind of performance without the touchdowns or interceptions. 11 tackles, 9 solos, 3 sacks, school record tying 5 tackles for loss.
That's nuts.
And he was everywhere. There was one where he was covering Jonah Coleman on a crossing route, like a little angle route, and he tackles him as soon as he catches the ball. He was everywhere, and I think he had 6 tackles on Washington's first 30 plays of the half in the first half. We collectively, not you and me. A lot of people talked about Bo Atkinson and Kenyatta Jackson as the starting duo, and yet Caden Curry is playing like an All-American right now, and there's 2 Cadens playing this well for Ohio State. And it was impressive to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Those were the 2 guys on defense who you went, wow, several times. 11 tackles for Caden Curry, 7 tackles for Caden McDonald. Caden Curry had some big plays, 3 sacks. Caden McDonald might have had the biggest play of the game. Caden McDonald basically had the drive home safe play of the game, which was 4th down for Washington with 6-7 minutes left, something like that, and picks up the sack and was very enthusiastic about it after. I've got some good pictures of that. But, yeah, those guys, I think Caden McDonald I maybe had higher expectations for than Caden Curry. Caden Curry felt like you know what you're going to get. He's going to be very good. He's going to be solid. He's not going to be Chase Young.
He's a good effort guy.
But that's okay. He's going to be a really solid guy. He's going to give him 30 snaps a game. I think I said before the season said, I think I am much more confident that he's going to get 5 sacks than almost anyone else on the team because he's going to be really solid and he's going to get 5 sacks. I think there's a lot of people I would say might blow up and have 10 sacks, much more likely than Caden Curry. I would like to revise my earlier assessment. He has been everything they have needed in terms of the defensive end because they lost 2 real good defensive ends. And you felt like coming into the year, they've got guys. They'll be okay. It'll be fine. Not a real problem. But this has gone from not a problem to, oh, wow, this is really, he is really on one.
He now has 8 tackles for loss in 4 games, 5 sacks. He may actually, does he now lead the team in tackles too?
That can't.
Well, he was 6 shy of Arvell Reese. And so now
they're tied.
What did Jalen McClain do? Because he was at 17.
Jalen McClain had 2.
He was 3 behind. So you now have Caden Curry, who leads the team in tackles.
Wow.
Tied. Leads the team in tackles for loss with 8. Sacks with 4, or 5 actually, and no interceptions. But
could do more. Yeah.
Hasn't run the ball. We've seen him at fullback before.
Yeah.
That's the next step. If you want to,
oh man,
you've got a Heisman candidate right now. His name is Caden Curry. Get him the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe a punt return.
Maybe. Well, I thought they might be looking for a punt returner at one point in the early first half of this game. That was there was not many times during the course of the game that I thought, that's a little concerning for Ohio State. It played out. It was, I'm sure, very frustrating the first half for Ohio State fans. They bogged down in the red zone again. But you constantly kind of thought, well, they have the passing. And like you said earlier, like they'll be able to throw the ball if they need to throw the ball. And the defense has been very good. I don't expect Washington to put up a bunch of points. This will be one of these talent win-out games. When Brennan has fumbled the punt in the first half, and when it was, they had gone right down the field, they had stopped Washington. They stopped Washington again, and they had, because Washington's first 2 drives, 3 plays 8 yards, 5 plays 6 yards. I mean, they didn't go anywhere. So it was very much, okay, it's fine. They didn't score the first drive. Brandon Ennis catches the punt. He runs it back across midfield.
It was a good 30 yards.
It was a good punt return, and then you fumble it, and that was one that, if Ohio State gets the ball there, I think there's a very good chance they drive in and they score. And this game probably does end up. I said 38-17. I don't think that Washington is scoring 17 points. Upon further reflection, I don't think there's a world in which Washington scores 17 points. But this was a game where Ohio State probably could have pulled away a little earlier, except for the mistakes. Although you watch the whole first half, I think both teams went to the locker room with the head coaches thinking, well, shoot, if only we hadn't made all of those mistakes. And Washington was a penalty after penalty after penalty. And, we'll discuss exactly which federal prison this officiating crew should go to. Because, if you want something that the Buckeye fans and Husky fans in the comments will agree on, this officiating crew should go to federal prison, probably for a while. But Washington kept having penalties that short-circuited drives. Ohio State had the turnover. They had a couple penalties that sort of short-circuited drives. And there were just a bunch of things where I think they're not going to love watching that film on Sunday back in either facility.
There are some people who are not going to love watching it, but Kevin Nin said it on the message board at half, saying like both of these teams should feel fortunate to be in this game at this point because Ohio State. We talked about it before the game. How does Washington win this? Well, they've got to steal a possession.
Yeah,
they did that. Ohio State's got to make mistakes. They did that, and yet eventually, Washington also has to play well. And Ohio State's defense needs to not be as good. And sorry, they apparently are.
Yeah, well, Ohio State's defense is legit, and I don't think that's a big surprise. But they were really, really solid all day. The first 2 drives really stopped them in their tracks, and Washington helped a little bit on that second one with the penalties. But you want to know what Jed Fish thinks about this Ohio State defense. They faked a field goal.
Yeah.
In that was kind of in the second quarter, and he said during the press conference they had a look when they were on the right-hand hash, They thought there was a look they were going to get from the Ohio State field goal defense block team, and he said they didn't really get it. I think the look was Davis and Igbenogson came flying off that right edge on the first one, and I thought might block that first field goal. He got close, and I think it was Sonny Styles behind the line. He got close. I think, and to Ohio State's credit, there was special team stuff that I'm sure Ohio State fans were kind of pulling their hair out over. That was one of the biggest plays of the game, that they had the discipline on the kick defense team to not fall for the fake. They had, the receiver was covered. The kicker had someone right in his face. That might have been Davis and Igbenogson right in his face on that one.
Yeah, I was waiting for a flag because he was kind of keeping him from going anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, the ball wasn't going to be caught. I think it was going to be overthrown. But I was waiting because, well, you know why.
Yes.
But also, like you said about the refs. But I know Washington fans wanted it, and he did impede with his route, but they let it go because even the refs are like, "What are you doing?"
Right. Yeah. Well, and it was not. I don't think it was a great throw. The coverage was there. It was one of those where spiritually the play was covered, the play was defended. Like, you don't want to hand them something, but I mean, can we talk about the roughing the passer call that Washington got flagged for? Jed Fish was asked, what happened on that play? And he said, well, they called roughing the passer. That was the end of the answer. It was like, yeah, extremely same. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that was. That was one where it's like, well, we're getting paid by the flag now, so we've got to listen. Kids got to get braces. I got to get. We got to hit our quota. It's the end of the month.
This is the problem when you sponsor penalties. Like, you got to make the sponsors happy, the corporate champions.
Yeah, that was a bad one. There was the one where Washington had the long pickup kind of deep in their own end, kind of left side of your TV screen, and then there was a sideline penalty, and apparently an official ran into a coach on the sideline, and Jed Fish was a little unclear on what actually happened there. I don't know if that showed up on the broadcast or
they did, but I missed it because the broadcast was like real time.
Okay,
so it was just
yeah.
But also, there was no warning on the sideline. Warning.
Well, it was
blatant. Like,
well, if you run into someone, if the official running down the sideline runs into someone, then it is a penalty. Sideline warning is like the players have come out on the field, not that you've interfered with a player or interfered with an official during the course of the play.
It must have been pretty blatant. And then Jed Fish gets a penalty about 5 minutes later for arguing with a referee.
Yeah. Well, both teams got called for unsportsmanlike conduct at different times, and it was a little bit sloppy, which you're going to have. I thought the strangest thing was all week long we talked about the noise in the stadium and how it was going to be a challenge for Ohio State's offensive line, and then I think the first 2 or 3 false starts were Washington, which was
first three,
yeah.
And then Ohio State had one in the second half.
Yeah, that was a wild one. It was
credit the Ohio State fans for forcing those false starts.
There were a couple of people who around me on the field who said this isn't quite as loud as I was sort of led to believe it was, and I thought it was plenty loud. Like this was an atmosphere and a stadium and everything that lived up to the billing in my mind. But you also had probably, I'm not going to guess, 15,000 Ohio State fans, whatever number you want to throw out there. There was plenty of red in the stadium. And so, if there's 70,000 Washington fans here, it is that one level of loud. If there's 55,000 Washington fans here, or whatever the number is, well, it's not quite as loud then.
I'd say one of the reasons it wasn't as loud, yes, Ohio State fans are here. 2, the Ohio State offense was only on the field for like 11 minutes in the first half. So that's when the crowd is supposed to be loud. And so they didn't even have an opportunity to do that. Then in the second half, Ohio State has the ball, but the game is kind of, like you're feeling a little bit nervous. And when you're nervous, you're not as loud, you're not as boisterous as you'd like to be.
Yeah. And Warpuck says, I think it's fair to say the refs crapped out, but it impacted both teams equally, basically offsetting. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. It was not just one team just repeatedly getting hosed. I'm sure both teams feel like we repeatedly got hosed, but I think both teams would feel like they. So that to me, I didn't think was I didn't think that was a deciding factor. That felt more like an annoying factor more than anything else.
I think Washington would like to have that roughing back because it led to a touchdown drive. So would that have stopped everything? Probably not in terms of the eventuality of this game. But yeah, you don't want to give a touchdown up right out of the end of the start of the first half or second half. Brian Day talks about the middle 8. We always talk about the middle 8. It turned into a middle 12 because that first drive went so long. Very effective. Perfect first drive to come out of half on the road, sit the people down, tell them the show's over.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, 14 plays, 75 yards, 7:41 off the clock. And that was really at Washington. Basically, they got the ball for a very short thing right at the end of the half, but didn't do anything with it. 3 plays, no yards. Between the 4:39 mark of the second quarter and the 7:19 mark of the third quarter, so basically 12-ish minutes of game time, Washington had the ball for a minute. It was this game went very fast. Did you feel like it went fast?
Yes. It was a 3-hour game.
Yeah, it felt like it was even faster than that, and it just felt like you looked up and it was like, how is it already 3 minutes left in the first quarter? How is it already almost halftime? How is it already the fourth quarter? It just kind of flew by, which not having, Lord knows they got their commercial time in, so it wasn't that, but the clock just kept moving, the possessions were long, it just kept going, which, that's fine. I'd rather have that than a 4-hour and 40-minute slog like we've seen in the past. It was a game where Ohio State did not. Washington did not make this easy on Ohio State at any point, but Buckeyes did what they needed to do. One thing that they needed to do was figure out who they were going to run the ball with. Tony, I think we know who RB1 is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Even though C.J. Donaldson got the start, got that first drive, did well, things bogged down. But it's pretty clear they want to get Bo Jackson more involved. He didn't bust one at all today, but he was moving the pile and dragging some tacklers, finished with 80 yards and 17 carries, kept them on schedule, had a nice catch where he got hit pretty good and held on to it. So that was impressive. And you're just going to see more and more and more of it. But also, 17 carries, which was the season high last year for Quinshon Judkins. And that was the season high for any Ohio State Buckeye last year. So that gives you an idea of what they think of him, what they needed, and we need to run Bo just to make sure we win. That's the kind of mentality that they had in there. And he had half of their 34 carries in this ball control type of game plan that they went with. And, you're only going to see more and more. And they're going to continue to get James Peoples involved. We saw him late. C.J. Donaldson. I think what they're doing with him right now is what we're going to see all season long. Mm-hmm. Short yardage, you get a drive or two to, establish some things. You're going to be out there to catch the ball at times. You're going to be out there to protect the passer at times. He's the happiest guy on the team every time we see him. So you'd assume he's perfectly happy with this role.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, I think people have sort of come around on the idea that you don't need to have the 27 carry a game guy anymore. That's kind of a thing in the past. And you saw how beneficial it was last year to have everything sort of split up, keep guys fresh throughout the game, for individual games, keep guys fresh for the season. And you know what running backs typically feel like at the end of a season. And Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins were both much, didn't look like that at the end of the year. And these guys were all kind of around, other than Donaldson, were kind of around for all of this last year. So they kind of saw it and know. Mike Ferguson says, we convert that 4th and 1 with Bo Jackson, changed my mind. You had a much better view of that than I did. So
yeah, I'm not going to try to do that. But you're talking about the one where C.J. Donaldson got stuffed. And
I would assume the first drive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, C.J. Donaldson had gotten him down there. He was running the ball well. You're going to assume things are going fine, and you just get it done. But Bo, at that point, they ran him on a little from the slot. He picked up like 2 or 3 yards. It doesn't matter who you run back there. You should be able to pick up that yard.
Right.
And they didn't. So that's an offensive line thing as much as the running back thing. So to say, well, Bo would have gotten it, I'm like, same offensive line, right?
Right. Well, and you've also seen that the tush push is basically unstoppable, and so that feels like
it's unstoppable when you have maybe like a 220-pound quarterback.
Right. Well, they do. He's just on the sideline. Like, go ahead and put him in. And I mean, they ran him in a package in a 3rd and short against Ohio. I'm frankly slightly surprised, given that Lincoln Keenholz was at one point a Washington commit, that you didn't find a way to get him in the game. And maybe there was something that then the circumstances didn't show up right. But
didn't get the right. Yeah.
If you're struggling in 4th and short or 3rd and 1, and you're not able to run the ball, and you have the play that's so consistently successful that people are trying to make it illegal, I'm just a caveman, but to me, I would look at the play that is so consistently successful that they're looking to make it illegal. That I would consider working that into my game plan in those situations.
The most remarkable thing about this game to me is DeMond Williams was 18 for 22 passing, and Washington was 1 for 11 on 3rd downs. Yeah. How does that compute? Like, how many of these sacks were on 3rd down? I know a few of them, but the fact that you're able to throw the ball so well, except when it comes down to 3rd down, and they were able to move the ball between the 20s and 30s until things started to get a little compressed. Or there'd be times where they'd have good field position, and then negative play, penalty. And it's almost like they're right back where they started. That's exactly what happened on one of their drives.
Yeah.
Where they just kept getting pushed back. And I can't say enough about the defense, but 18 of 22, they were completing passes down the field. but it feels like the whole game plan, even with the passing game, just contain it. We'll be
Right, yeah.
Just don't let it go crazy.
Keep everything in front of you. Don't let Williams get out of the pocket. It was very much just, hey,
Eventually, the defensive line will win.
Make them go down the field in chunks and have 3 plays in a row where they're moving the ball down the field and not making a mistake and not giving up a negative play and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, they had plays that were some big plays, but Desmond Roebuck had a 20-yarder. Great. The other 3 catches, he had 38 yards. So that's like 12 and some change per. Jonah Coleman had a 14-yarder. His other 2 were 12, so that's 6 yards per. Denzel Boston had a 17-yarder. His other 2, 9 yards. That's 4.5 per. Murray Evans had 2 for 24. His longest 22. That means the other one was 2 yards. Decker DeGraff had 2 catches for 24 yards. Long of 23. That means the other one was 1.
That was on the third and short.
Yeah, Raiden Vines Bright was 2 for 10. Long of 7. And the other one was 3. Like, there were a lot of short plays. And you can give up a 20-yarder every once in a while. You have to string together 3 or 4 20-yarders to get down the field, and Washington wasn't able to do that. They were constantly getting thrown off schedule, either by not being able to run the ball but for 5 yards a pop consistently, or getting sacked, or penalties. And then if you're off schedule, then yeah, you can throw for 7 yards, but if it's 3rd and 12, 7 yards doesn't do you a whole heck of a lot of good.
Geiger Lee asks, does Washington, the team, the atmosphere, etc., feel like the Big Ten? And I absolutely feel like it does. And same with Oregon. Felt the same way coming out of that Oregon game last year. Now, UCLA, USC, whatever, but we haven't seen them yet. But USC honestly does feel like the Big Ten because they've been around the Big Ten with the Rose Bowl for so long.
Yeah.
But absolutely, the stadium it's like, it's not the biggest thing. But it's got 70,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unlike Spartan Stadium. It's or a bigger Purdue Boilermaker Field type of situation.
We spent the whole weekend making friends, and you're comparing this to Purdue.
No, but it does feel Big Ten to me.
Yeah, I think this is other than having a real long plane flight to get out here, this is a place that takes its football seriously, that the atmosphere is up to the standards of anywhere in the nation. And the team is legit. The team is this is a good football team. This is not a national championship football team in Washington right now. But you could see. Washington was in literally the national championship game 2 seasons ago. So you could absolutely see them get back there in the next few seasons, or at least be a playoff kind of team under Jed Fish. There's a lot to like there, I think, for Washington. And this is a stadium where, boy, if this is a playoff game, if you've got Georgia coming up here in December, or Texas coming up here in December, good luck.
I'm just looking at Washington's schedule right now, and then we'll get back to the comments. At Maryland is their next game.
By the way, Jed Fish said, we're excited to get on a plane and go to Maryland. I'm about ready to run up and that is a lie, sir. No one is excited about that.
Then they're at Michigan, and I think the Michigan defense is going to give them fits. Illinois got a nice win today. That's at home. Then at Wisconsin, Purdue, at UCLA, and then Oregon here in the season finale.
Yeah.
Which
at Michigan, home for Illinois, and home for Oregon. Those are the 3 that you look at, and you're probably going to win one at least of those. This team very well might finish 9-3, and you could finish 10-2. I don't know that you're beating Oregon, but the other, at Michigan is winnable, but I think Michigan's favored. Illinois here, I think that's winnable, and that's probably a pretty close point spread, I think.
Yeah, and this could be an opportunity for Washington to keep Oregon out of the playoffs.
Oh.
As well.
Do you think they would enjoy that?
I think they would enjoy that. I think it was Stephen Means before the game or during the game ran into saw Ohio State fans running into some Washington fans, and the Washington fans thanked them for the win over Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, that is. If you were not familiar, you think Oregon's big rivalry is the Civil War against Oregon State, and at Washington's big rivalry is the Apple Cup against Washington State. And yes, but also Washington and Oregon have a history, history over the last, especially 30 years. I think Oregon, when they went to the Rose Bowl in 1994, I think they were showing highlights of this while we were at Autzen last year, and it was like a big interception in the Washington game, and that was like their huge signature moment from that season. Yeah, those are like capital R rivals, and it's cool that that's a Big Ten thing now. I did want to get to this from Warpug.
Yeah.
Tony won his impossible trifecta for running backs, hitting 17, 34, 80 something bold prediction. Well, Tony, James Peoples only hit 10 yards, so I don't think that you did.
I know. I came close, though.
Womp. And I cannot emphasize this strongly enough. Womp.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you for rooting for me. I'm sorry that I fell short for you.
No. You fell short for everyone. Anthony says the D-line is not getting enough love. They're powerful under Knowles. I felt they underachieved in his system. They're certainly showing a lot more looks, and they're certainly, I think, more tailored this year. And you can blame that on Jim Knowles. You can blame that on whoever you want to blame that on, or some combination of people. We're not going to get into that. But this defensive line has wildly exceeded my expectations for this season.
Yeah, although as Brian Day said, it's game 4.
Well,
but,
yeah, right.
Yes, but through these 4 games, because we weren't sure exactly what they would be. There was questions like, yeah, you know who the starters are going to be, but sure, you know, but do you know what they're going to do? Because they haven't done it. And it's like, well, that's an issue. Caden Curry, I don't know how many of you guys were on. I'm sure you saw most of the stream. The coaches, the coach and the players said that we're a no-name defensive line. It's only going to last so long. I don't know that Caden Curry is going to stay a no-name guy. Caden McDonald, not a no-name guy. Very, very impressive. As Kenyatta Jackson, can defensive lines be in a zone?
Yeah.
Like, you look like it to me. That's what he said. So it was impressive all over. Even I think Taiwan Malone had a play in there. Edric Houston has to clean up the penalties. That could have been bad.
Was that unsportsmanlike conduct? Was that on him?
Yes.
Okay. And
he just took a shot at a guy after the play.
Okay.
Slapped him.
That was after a Caden Curry sack, right? Yeah, because they threw the flag, and I was thinking, well, maybe he got a face mask or something, and then they called on sportsmanlike conduct, and I didn't think they said Caden Curry's number. So yeah, you had a hands to the face on Phillip Daniels where the Washington player's helmet came flying off, and they hadn't thrown the flag, and the Washington guy is like looking around like, do you think it just fell off on its own? How do you think
These
this
things
happened?
happen?
Michael Buchanan says Washington's a good team. They'll beat some folks this year. They have a good crowd. Still not Oregon IMO. They have a good season this year. I think it's hard to compare the games because the Oregon-Ohio State game last year was so back and forth, and 32-31 is a very different game than 24-6. If we didn't see Washington score a touchdown today, so if Washington scores a touchdown and they fire up the siren and all that stuff, you could tell early in the game this place got loud. It was not as consistently loud throughout the game, but I was impressed with the noise. Mike Ferguson wants to know, the viewers want to know, did Tom take the Washington helmet cart for a spin? I actually saw that yesterday when I was here on campus. They had it stored in the parking garage underneath the stadium where I parked yesterday while I was doing one of the segments. And I took a picture of it, and I don't think I actually put it on social media, but it was like I looked at it, I'm like, I've never seen a football team with a bullpen cart before. But they drove it out of the field. I'm assuming they must have shown it on the broadcast, but they drive it out on the field after
must have
made field goals. And no, sadly, I did not do the Marshawn Lynch. But believe me, anytime I see a bullpen cart, I think, what if I did?
I saw it here when we got here about 10 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was on the ramp. And I did see, is the key in there? And the key was not in there. I don't know how to hotwire carts. Only Ford Fairmonts from the early 80s. That's all I can do.
Okay, good. There is. Hey, speaking of carts, there's a cart right there. I heard a beep, and I looked over to you to see if you were reacting because I was like, do I have tinnitus all of a sudden? Did that just happen?
I'm dropping, cussing like crazy over here.
Well, Jenkins says Ohio State had superior linemen. The real test will be what happens when you get challenged by teams to the opponents that can match you and play bully ball. Maybe it's what kind of how well can Michigan run the ball? I'm going to be interested to see Michigan. We watch. I'm guessing that's a Washington fan. I am going to be interested to see how consistently Michigan can run the ball this year, because their offensive line has been okay, but not amazing. Bryce Underwood is sort of still rounding into form a little bit. So, yes, I think Ohio State is definitely going to get challenged several times this season. I think Michigan will definitely challenge them. I mean, the Penn State game is going on right now, and I think Penn State's going to present one kind of a challenge.
They left. They were putting all that stuff over there together, and they left the TV on and left.
Yes, they did. Yes.
Real classy.
Yes.
But
network TV people, folks.
Justice Haynes, he's one of the best backs to come through Michigan so far, and the explosiveness that he plays with. And then you've got they're just steady, and really steady has been enough to give Ohio State trouble in that game, because it's steady, and then boom, somebody's gone, and it's like, what was it, the 22, I guess, when they held them in check for so long until the dam broke at the end.
Well, that was two 75-yard runs for Donovan Edwards. Donovan Edwards got a video game cover based on those two plays. And last year was kind of the same way as well, where it was 10-10, and Michigan really hadn't done anything, and they had the one run from Kalal Mullings, and that was it, and that was the play. I do want to get to something from Jed Fish. He had, I was over there for his postgame, and if you've been on the stream, you've gotten to hear from the Ohio State side of things. Jed Fish had some interesting stuff to say. He was asked, that you're going to hear two sound bites kind of together. The second one, the first one, he was asked about their struggles in the red zone, and the struggles on third down. I think third down, actually, specifically. It was like 1 for 11 on third down.
Yep.
He got asked about that, and then he also got asked about taking sacks. And I thought it was interesting because you heard, all the conversation in the Ohio State side was how great the defensive line was. Jed Fish had a very different perspective on that. So that's the second question. The first question was kind of about the 1 for 11 on third down. So here's a couple minutes with Jed Fish.
Well, we had first and goal on the 1, and we ran the ball and got stopped, and second goal on the 2, and then we false started. And we went backwards 5 yards, and that makes things very challenging because now it's 2nd and 7 on the 7. And now they wind up playing certain coverages where they've got guys really playing zone, hole players all throughout the red zone, all throughout the end zone. So it made it challenging. And then we wound up taking a sack. And then the next drive we went down there was 3rd and 3, and same thing. We wound up trying to get Dez the ball, and they had a hole player right in the throwing lane, and we got to throw that away so we have a chance on 4th and 3 to go for it. And unfortunately, we took a sack there and had to kick a field goal to make it 14-6. But we'll learn from that. And, that red zone defense has been tried and true for the last 25 years up in New England. And there are a lot of challenges there, a lot of different coverages.
How do you feel like you guys fared in the trenches today?
I thought we did well. I thought we were able to hold up in the running game. I thought we could run the ball pretty well. Didn't feel like we had a lot of negative plays. I think our negative plays came on sacks. And I think a lot of them, they were late sacks. They weren't early sacks. We were in a position where, they were winning more because of coverage than they were because of one-on-ones. And then at the end, they got us on a couple one-on-ones. But for the most part, I thought our line did well.
All right, so there you go. So that was Jed Fish. I thought he had some really interesting comments kind of throughout the game. I did think it was very interesting that all the talk in the Ohio State side, and all the players they brought out were all defensive linemen, and defensive line's the story of the game. And then Jed Fish is going, it wasn't like they were just blasting through the offensive line. It was a lot of coverage, and which Ohio State, that is also an important part of the defense, obviously. But you have good coverage. He's got to stand there, and he's got to I don't remember if it was in that soundbite or one of the other ones, but he talked about Damon Williams. He was 18 for 22. Incompletions are okay. Throw the ball away. You got to have kind of the clock in your head that's going, hey, okay, not open. Get rid of it, because you can't, you can't always make a play with your legs, and sometimes there is a big angry guy coming right in your face.
That's what we saw in the Colorado State game and the Washington State game, where in each of those games they gave up 3 sacks. So it's like, well, if they give up 3 sacks in that game, what's Ohio State's defensive line and defense going to do? And there wasn't a lot of blitzing. It was just, The defensive lineman talked about it, rushing as one. There's no freelancing. There's no getting out of your gap, getting out of your zone, your area. It's just all do it as one. And then when you're one-on-one battles, which they did, and then Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles both had opportunities to be spies, and they were step for step with DeMond Williams when he would get outside and try to scramble, and there was not any long gains in that way. And so it was just, and as Jed Fish said, the coverage was there as well, even though there were times when the middle of the field they were able to get that. But again, do it over the course of 11 plays on a drive and see if you can then get it into the end zone, because we've seen now this team is pretty good in the red zone defensively. The Buckeyes are. So, yeah, it's bend, don't break, bend, break the quarterback, bend, break the offensive line. There's no don't break here. It's just break the offense.
Yeah, the defense has just consistently, it hasn't always been the same way. The only consistent thing has been it just kind of works. We're 4 weeks into the season, 4 games into the season, and the Ohio State defense has given up 2 touchdowns, and one was against Texas, and one was kind of a broken play against Ohio, and that's it. That's it through 4 games. If you're giving up 1 touchdown every other game, that is going to be a winning number for you, kind of almost regardless of what else you're doing. And the offense has done plenty well to kind of handle their side of things.
With 8 new starters and a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah, well, and I think there have been a lot of people who I have gotten texts during games. I have talked to people during the week who say, I wasn't sure about this Matt Patricia hire, but boy, he's doing great. And it's like, yep, he sure is. He is. Everyone looked at he wasn't a very good head coach with the Detroit Lions. And, number one, lots of people have failed as the head coach of the Detroit Lions over the years. Number two, he's not being asked to be the head coach of an NFL team right now. He's being asked to be the defensive coordinator for a college team. Those are very different jobs. And that's setting aside the fact that, I think he's learned a lot from his experience in Detroit as well. So, that has been, I think Jim Knowles was a huge loss for this team. Jim Knowles did a phenomenal job as Ohio State's defensive coordinator. And it seems like, by all accounts, he's doing a good job. I can't see the score on.
They're shutting out Oregon in the first quarter.
Well, there you go. That's something. But Jim Knowles has been incredibly successful everywhere he's gone. You look what's happened to Oklahoma State since Jim Knowles left. It has gone from top 5 defense to and you're fired.
Yeah.
And largely because the defense has been non-competitive. And there's other factors there. But Jim Knowles has been very successful everywhere he's gone. So at some point that stops being a coincidence. But to lose a defensive coordinator like that, and then pick up a guy who everyone kind of scoffed at when they hired him, and we're again 4 games into the season, so we'll see where this ends up in January, and if you can kind of keep the magic going. But so far, so good for sure.
Yeah, he's answered all of the questions and all of the concerns, and has been professional about it, and has added to a defense. Hasn't come in and just we're changing everything. They've changed some things, but also he's working with this defensive staff really, really well right now.
Doug Shepard said earlier, I didn't see any rotation at the receiver position. I at one point looked up, and they were in the red zone, I think, and Mylan Graham's out there. I was like, where did this come from? I mean, I don't think anyone other than the starting 3 had receptions, but they did. Did you see Bryson Rogers?
He was out there.
He was out there, yeah.
A couple of times, Mylan Graham, as you said, a couple of times. I think Rogers may have been out there. It may have been the drive after Brandon Ennis' fumble on the return. But, yeah, Mylan Graham was out there 2 separate times. Now, that may have been 3 or 4 total snaps for both of them. But, they did have Mylan Graham when he was in there running a little the orbit motion behind the quarterback and setting something else up. But, yeah, they would like to have done that more, I'm guessing, but also they did not have the ball all that often. And then when it was time to run the clock down and just get out of Dodge, you're just trying to get out of Dodge. You need your best run blockers out there.
Right, yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of this that comes down to what he needed to win the game. Ryan Day says over and over again, job number 1 is to win the game. Got to win the game. Because if you win the game and it's you don't win it the way you want to, whether that's by margin or style or, hey, we were hoping to get this guy involved more, whatever it is, that's hey, you sit down in the film room and go, hey, sorry, we were trying to do this. We wanted to do this differently. We we wanted you guys to play better in this area, whatever. Teach that off a win. If if they had lost this game, boy, is that a different flight on the way home than, and they really never were in any serious trouble in this game. There was never a point where you looked around and went, oh boy, last year at Penn State, they were down 10-0 in the first quarter. And you kind of looked around, the stadium's going nuts, and it was kind of like, oh boy, how are they going to respond to this? They did not really have oh boy, how are they going to respond to this? Because when you have a defense that's as good as this defense is, it's hard to dig yourself too deep of a hole unless the offense is, throwing a pick six or scoop and score or something like that. If you're not turning the ball over and your defense is not giving up touchdowns, it's hard to dig yourself too deep of a hole.
Or Washington had an opportunity to go up 10-0 because they were up 3-0, got the ball back.
Yeah. But that drive was over like
yeah.
And Signiog wants to know the sack-adjusted run total.
So 107 or something.
It was Washington, Ohio State outrushed them sack-adjusted. So you take out the sack yardage from the rushing totals. Ohio State rushed for 156 yards, sack-adjusted 4.7 yards per carry. Washington rushed for 107 yards, sack-adjusted 4.5 yards per carry. But that's not very many. That's not very many carries. You're 4.5 yards per carry for 107. That's like 22 rushes, something like that, and that's not a whole heck of a lot. So.
Yeah, no, and those are winning numbers clearly. 13 carries for a guy that would love to carry it 26 times and control the clock, and because if you give him the ball 26 times, eventually he's going to bust one. I mean, you saw him hit a 34-yarder on 13 carries. He's got an opportunity to go the distance at any time. So the more carries you can give, but 13 carries for DeMond Williams, and 6 of those are sacks.
Right.
Like they just did not have the ball long, and that's what happens when you don't pick up third downs.
Right.
When you're 1 for 11 on third downs, good luck establishing the run because don't have enough opportunities.
Right. Here's DeMond Williams rushing plays, including the sacks. Rush for 3rd and 2, rush for 0 yards. 1st and 10, rush for 2 yards. 2nd and 3, rush for a 2-yard loss. 3rd and 10, rush for a 0 yards. 2nd and 5, rush for 6 yards. That was a positive one. 4th and 1, rush for 10 yards. That was a positive one. 1st and 10, rush for 2 yards. I mean, it was like you had 2 that were you're staying on schedule, positive expected value kind of plays. If you had told me before the game, all I'm going to tell you is DeMond Williams is going to have 2 rushes of any positive value at all, and that's all you tell me, I'm going to say, yeah, Ohio State wins by multiple scores because that he is such an important part of this offense and was just kind of a non-factor for. Well, it's crazy to say that about a guy who went 18 for 22 passing,
right.
But he was kind of a non-factor for long stretches.
Was it Trevor Lawrence had the quietest? Was it 400 yards passing?
Oh, in the Sugar Bowl in 2020, yeah.
And this was the quietest 18 of 22 you'll ever see. And they controlled him. There were no big plays. There were some chunks here, but then it's like, well, that chunk got you to the 35-yard line. Now what? And then it's like, well, there's no now what. There's nothing after the now what because now you've just lost yards on 2nd down, and now you're facing the 3rd long. That was one of the things that Ryan Day said on why Ohio State was so good on 3rd downs of their own. It's like he said because we're good on 1st and 2nd.
Right.
And that was a problem that Washington had where they'd get a good gain on 1st, but then they'd get a negative play on 2nd. And it's like, well, you just eliminated that positive gain on 1st down.
Can we talk for a moment? I did not have my phone with me during the second half, and I just about died at not being able to tweet this. I'm sure other people made this joke on Twitter. Not the first time the good folks of Seattle have watched their team get run over by a guy named Bo Jackson. Really, really died not being able to put that out in the public. So I just appreciate you guys being my audience for that. Now we're good. I assume that was a common observation, but I didn't.
Well, I didn't see anybody else other than myself when Bo Jackson had like the 3-yard run down in the red zone on the end around from the spot. I said it's the first time a Bo Jackson has ever been stopped in the red zone in Seattle.
All right, so same page there. There you go. Jeffrey McDowell says, I think our fans deserve a Buckeye leaf for this game, even though it wasn't at home.
I said the same. I said it. I was like that the first fall start, that would have been a Buckeye leaf.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one came and another one came. They were good. I don't know that I ever heard an OHIO, but you can't necessarily do that in the stadium because of the configuration. There were some "Let's Go Bucks" that were maybe drowned out by "Let's Go Dogs," that sort of thing. But A+ effort by the Ohio State fans. And Tom said he eyeballed it at 15,000. I don't.
Yeah,
it was a good number. It was a healthy number. You could hear them.
I hate being asked to do that because it's like it's the most unscientific thing, and you're trying to, take these completely unlike areas, and I don't know how many Washington fans are in the west end zone behind us because that was all students.
Yeah,
but you get people who just throw these numbers out, and the biggest source of irritation for me on this was the Tennessee game last year, where Kirk Herbstreit kept saying 60 or 40,000 Tennessee fans. Allow me to assure you, there were not 10,000 fans within 40,000 fans of that because it never got that loud. This was, and this was absolutely, this was not anything close to a stadium takeover thing.
No.
Ohio State fans always travel well. They were probably, 15,000. If you told me it was 12, fine. If you tell me it was 18, fine. I'm not going to argue that. I put the picture out at one point at the end of the first quarter, just sort of the panoramic picture of the stadium, and it was like, you guys figure it out. I'm not dealing with it. Mike Ferguson says, I'm just glad that Oregon finally gets to experience the restful slumber in a central Pennsylvania 2-star hotel. Welcome to the Big Ten. They probably booked something in State College.
Not the fans, though.
Well, not the fans. Oh, no, the fans hey, try the Altoona pizza. We did that.
You know what?
Yeah.
And then your continental breakfasts of dry, hardened cinnamon rolls from wherever.
Every time they have I think it might be a Hampton Inn commercial where it's the old lady that eggs make your bones strong. Where it's the what is the breakfast at the other hotels? I always think, hey, Central Pennsylvania.
It's no lie, and it is a welcome to the Big Ten in so many different ways, except for the fact that Penn State joined the Big Ten like a little over 30 years ago. So let's not let them be the epitome of what the conference is. Thank you for the super chat.
Yes.
But even you, Mike, would agree.
I did think it was interesting because the first season I really started watching Ohio State football was 1993. So one of the first games I ever watched was the 1993 Washington game. And that was a Washington team that was coming off back-to-back Rose Bowls, and they won a national championship. And that was a game Ohio State had that one, and then they had the Penn State game. And I always get those two confused. I think the Penn State one was the one that was 24-6, because that was the same score as the game today, obviously. But, it was kind of the same thing where Ohio State controlled that game. It wasn't, Ohio State was probably more in control in the game in Columbus in 1993. But it was, that was one where it was that was a Washington team that was coming off of 3 straight Rose Bowls and a national championship a couple of years before. And this is a Washington team that's coming off a national championship game appearance a couple of years before. But the turnover in college football that doesn't mean quite what it did a few decades back.
There was a comment earlier that I apologize. I forget who it was, but it was something that I was thinking during the game as well. It's like Ohio State did not take advantage of the matchups as much as you would have liked them to do, because there were times where there was the freshman true cornerback matched up with Jeremiah Smith, and they didn't go after him.
Yeah,
and so it's like those were things where, and frankly, whoever it was, they did not attack that freshman. Now, from all accounts, he's going to be pretty good, but he's still a true freshman. And how much we talked a lot about Leroy Bryant,
right?
I don't know that he was.
I saw him out there once because I looked and my eyes got real big, and I will sometimes look and go, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah.
And that was one where I thought I knew where it was going, and that was not where it went.
No, and maybe that's why Ohio State's offense was effective, because Washington's like, well, we know where they're going, and it's like, no, we're going to just run the ball and throw Max Clare finally got that. The fourth down pass that he missed against Texas, that they connected on that one today.
Was that the same route? It was pretty similar, and it was the same thing where he caught it and he got one foot in, and it was like, well, Julian, the last time Julian Sain was told, like, you got to throw that a little earlier. He did not throw it any earlier, but they got it in. I love our commenter so much. It just makes him wants to know, why is it called continental? I believe it's because that is a traditional breakfast on the European continent. However, Colonel Wingus says maybe it's what George Washington served to the troops when they had no money. Speaking of people who had rough quarter in the state of Pennsylvania.
Free breakfast, everybody.
So yeah, so that's I like that one a lot. Lincoln Riley lost today. USC lost.
Illinois kicked a field goal at the end.
Yeah.
Do you USC took the lead
Do you
late?
think Lincoln Riley and Garrett Riley, you know how brothers will fight sometimes?
Yeah.
Do you think when they get together for Thanksgiving, they argue about who's the more overrated offensive genius? Because I would have thoughts on that.
He's at Clemson, right?
Garrett Riley?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
For now. Super chat from Treebuck. Oregon fans may experience some disappointment, but they will never experience Kevin Noon versus Burger King disappointment. That's one of the greatest moments. And really, should they put that on the Pennsylvania state flag? I say
yes.
Kevin's face walking into this was during COVID, right? So there's like nothing going on. Kevin's face. Kevin hates Burger King with the fiery passion of 1,000 suns. So we walk into one of those Pennsylvania Turnpike rest stops, and on the sign there's like, here's the 5 options you have, and we walk in there, and Tony and I walk in just before Kevin, and we kind of do a quick scan, and it's like, well, that's closed, and that's closed, and that's closed. Burger King's open, and that's closed. And then just turn and watch Kevin's face as he walks in behind us and has the same realization. If you could bottle a moment, birth of my children, wedding, I mean, there's some good choices. I'm not saying that's top 5, but it might be top 10.
Like Christmas Eve when the Christmas music is going, and just feels so happy. It's so nice. Takes you back to all of the happiness that I've ever had. That was that.
Yeah,
that was perfect. Could not ask for a better day for any of us.
All right, we've gotten to our Jed Fish soundbite. I'm just trying to scroll through real quickly here to see if there's anyone we haven't talked about that we really need to. I don't think so.
Peyton Pierce had a hit on Damon Williams that, if you guys go back and watch it, it was a little Corby Jones-ish.
Okay.
It was I think it was this 10-yard run, maybe, or one of those 8 or 9 yarders.
Okay.
But he cleans them up pretty good.
You know what I wanted to mention real quick? Caleb Downs, 2 tackles. And I can remember at least one of them, because there was one where there was a receiver out in the flat, or a running back or something, and it was a receiver who got the ball out in the flat, and it was just boom, form tackle, down, nothing. Davis and Ignadosin had another one of those too, where it was, I think it might have been a run.
Yeah.
And it was like a 7-yard gain, and the guy's running away from me, and I'm looking, and I'm going, oh boy, this might be trouble. And then Davis and Ignadosin, it was just like, this might be trouble, and he's on the ground. On the ground like that. It was a form tackle.
He went over the sideline, and he and Matt Patricia celebrated that one.
Yeah.
Tom, how many points in bold predictions if we say Jaden Fielding will come within 1 tackle of Caleb Downs' tackle total? Because that feels like that might be that's at least a point.
That's at least a 3-pointer, I would say. and we talked about the positive on the special teams earlier with the with covering the fake field goal really well. The long kick return is, the Brandon Innes fumble obviously that's one kind of issue. The long kick return is a different kind of issue. Washington has some skill talent. That was, I think it was Muhammad, the backup running back, who returned that one. I mean, was there a breakdown? Did you get any sense for this is a rush, lane discipline thing?
Well, I think so, because there's nobody there. He was got there through there pretty quickly, and then great tackle by Jaden Fielding to be there and ready for it.
Let's wrap up with the single easiest question we get all year from Cynthia. I'm curious if Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith will declare for the draft next year. They already run a championship. So the answer is Caleb Downs is eligible for the NFL draft after this season, and I don't want to spoil a surprise, but I expect him to be getting handed a hat by Roger Goodell on a stage in wherever that is. And Jeremiah Smith, he has 1 more year. He will play the 2026 season of college football before then Roger Goodell can hand him a hat in April of 2027.
So we're all set then?
We're all set.
I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the chats, the super chats, for hanging out with us. And again, find us every game for stuff like this. Hit the bell to be notified. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you've not yet done so. Hit the thumbs up before we go. We would appreciate that. Of course, continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all later.